Why Mafia isn't a fucking aesthetic, a thread. First of all, go fuck yourself, for real!
Crimson is an antagonist who made his first debut in Helluva Boss Season 2 Episode 3, X's and O's. He's Marx's father who is a crime lord. But we have no idea what his mafia does. I'll probably make a video trying to figure out what it does in the future. But for now, I'm simply going to explain why I loathe him as an antagonist. Not hate, loathe. So, let's get started. Quick note, this is all just my opinion, and not everyone has to agree with it. If you believe Crimson is a good antagonist, then that's good. If you don't, well, I'm going to give you more reasons to hate him. So, let's actually get started. The first thing I don't like about Crimson is his design. I find his design to be very lazy, because it's literally just an edgy looking version of Marxy. Crimson should be Marx's father, not Marx's evil twin brother. The other fathers in Helluva Boss have decent designs. While they don't look exactly like their sons, they still share a physical resemblance to them. Crimson looks exactly like Marxy with very few differences, such as his legs, the makeup, or scars on his face, his golden tooth, and the slightly darker skin. But aside from those differences, he just looks like Marx's alter ego. As a result, he doesn't look very intimidating either, since he looks very similar to Marxy, who is the weakest and least intimidating protagonist in Helluva Boss. Now, Marxy can be intimidating with a weapon, but without one, he's not really scary. When you compare Crimson's current design with his beatboard design, it's almost night and day. In his beatboard design, he's big even though he's short, and doesn't look exactly like his son. But the resemblance between Crimson and Marxy are still present, because they are related. The design for Crimson is pretty bad and lazy as hell. I'm not sure if it was because of poor planning, or if it was because the designers got lazy. Crimson is probably the second stupidest antagonist in Helluva Boss, right behind Stella. But how exactly can he be stupid when he's a crime lord? Well, it's something called plot. You see, if Crimson wasn't stupid at all, then X's and O's wouldn't happen. Marxy and Miller's marriage wouldn't happen. And Marxy would still likely be working for Crimson. The many things that leads me to conclude that Crimson isn't smart is the fact that he didn't check if Chaz was telling the truth. The fact that he sent Marxy and Chaz to do a heist with no getaway vehicle, no weapons, or anything to cover up their faces. He seems to have never completed a GTA heist in his life. Lastly, he got distracted by Fizzarolli's distraction song. Let's tackle these instances of stupidity one at a time. Crimson never checked whether or not Chaz was rich throughout X's and O's, because if Crimson did, then he would have killed Chaz right then and there. Despite being a crime lord, he almost got bamboozled by one of his former lackeys. That's just embarrassing. All it took to convince Crimson that Chaz wasn't rich was Blitzo just telling him.
Wait, y'all should probably know, Chaz isn't even rich, okay? Check his car. He just played you like a fucking rube. Later, losers!
Apparently, Crimson is gullible as hell. If you just tell him something, he'll immediately believe it. The second instance is that Crimson couldn't even do a heist right. Crimson tasked Marxy and Chaz to rob a bank, which again makes me question what the hell his mafia does. But when we look at the heist, we see that Marxy and Chaz don't have weapons to defend themselves with, they don't have a getaway vehicle, nor do they have masks to cover up their identity. Since now that there is law enforcement in hell, this leads to Marxy getting caught by the police and Chaz most likely being a wanted man. If Crimson planned out his heist in the first place, then Marxy and Chaz would have succeeded, and Marxy would still be working under Crimson. But no, Marxy gets caught, Chaz gets away, and Crimson is an idiot for not properly planning out a heist. Lastly, wait a second, now that I actually think about it, Crimson holding Fizzarolli hostage in Oops was stupid as well. If Crimson failed to contain Fizzarolli and Fizzarolli escapes, then Crimson would have to worry about one of the 7 deadly sins coming after him. I didn't think crime lords were this careless, because if there were, then there would definitely be less crime lords in the world. So, with that in mind, you'd think Crimson would do everything in his power to make sure Fizzaroli doesn't escape, right? Well, let's see what he does instead. Crimson walks out where he's holding Fizzaroli and Bledsoe hostage. Off to a bad start, but he probably improves. He got distracted by Fizzaroli singing instead of shooting Fizzaroli or at least restraining him.
What the fuck?
You know, with the lack of intelligence Crimson has, it's pretty surprising that he's still alive. Even more so surprising that he is still a crime lord. Let's just move on to the next topic. When you actually think about it, Crimson isn't really a threat to the main cast. He's not physically strong, and his goons aren't all that powerful either. Now you may be asking yourself, why do I think he's weak? Well, it's because he mainly relies on his goons to do the fighting for him. But when he's alone, and is confronted with a violent individual, he backs off like a wimp. There are 2 instances of this in X's and O's. When Millie was trying to kill Chaz and Chazzy behind Crimson, Crimson tried to calm Millie down, as if she were a rabid dog. After Crimson's goons are killed, Crimson never tries to fight Millie himself. Instead, he just gives up Marksy to her and pouts like a big baby. I know crime lords aren't supposed to be fighters, but they should have way more guts. Crimson does not have guts. Next, his goons are all weak. Millie was able to kill a good handful of them in X's and O's, and with minimal difficulty, no less. Another good amount of them were killed by Fizzaroli and Bledsoe. The former isn't even a fighter at all, yet his goons were still defeated by them. Are all of his goons made out of paper mache? Seriously? So not only is Crimson physically weak, but his goons are also bad at killing people. Couldn't they at least do some damage to the main cast? Is Crimson running a mob, or is he just running a club for insane sharks? On to the next topic. Crimson had little build up in the series overall. Even then, saying he had build up is a bit of a stretch considering that the build up he had was a throwaway line Marksy said in the first episode.
Maybe like a shitty dad or a mob family. That's understandable.
Crimson hasn't been hinted at all throughout the first season. For instance, the main protagonists in Stolas go to Lululand, which is an amusement park located in the Greed Ring. Who lives in the Greed Ring and is very infamous. Crimson does, and Crimson happens to be infamous. Despite the physical similarity and the fact that Marksy worked for Crimson most of his life, nobody in Lululand pointed out the fact that Marksy was part of Crimson's mob or even looked similar to Crimson. They just ignored him. Another example is in Truth Seekers. Marksy goes into a bad hallucination due to the truth gas, yet the only person he sees in his hallucination is Bledsoe, not Crimson nor his mother. But if we were to believe that Crimson is important to Marksy's life, then wouldn't he be included in his flashback? Just some food for thought. Crimson is the worst antagonist in Helluva Boss. Somehow, I believe Stella is a better character than he is, and she barely has any character. Crimson's design is below mediocre. He's not a threat, he's pretty stupid, and I don't think he was planned. If he was planned, then the writers did a poor job of building him up, because there was no build up. Crimson is an example of what you shouldn't do when writing an antagonist, and I really wished he died in X's and O's, especially since Marksy said this in the first episode.
Maybe like a shitty dad or a mob family. That's understandable.
Crimson is a bad dad who runs a mob family. Marksy would have no problem with Millie killing him. It's a shame that he's one of the few antagonists who gets to make a second appearance, while the other far better antagonists have yet to make a second appearance. But that's the video for today. If you all enjoyed my video, feel free to like and subscribe. Plenty more are coming soon. Tell me what you all think about Crimson in the comments below. Do you think he sucks? Do you think he's actually good? It would be interesting to read. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a nice day.